Boutwell. I'm the author of Outland Exile. I'm a new author, independently published, and this is not my first gig.
What's your first gig?
I'm a physician. I take care of the world's best patients. They don't drink, they don't smoke, and there's no heavy lifting involved. Newborns.
Nice.
Yeah.
What is your writing process?
Yeah, I get up at 5:30 in the morning every day and rub the sleep out of my eyes and start. And yeah, I've thrown away days and days of work, but I think it's more like scaffolding. I think you have to put up the scaffolding, even if you tear it down later, in order to get to the spot where you can actually do something that's good enough to keep.
Do you have any writing rituals?
If at all possible, I write in a overstuffed blue leather chair when there's nothing happening. There's not even birds singing. And when the sun comes up, I more or less stop because I've got other stuff to do, and that generally gets me my 1,000 words a day. So
do you keep pen and paper with you at all times?
I do, because that's my my go-to if I get blocked. My feeling is if you get blocked, you do something different. And indeed, I have written. I've written in Kenyatta airports, in Nairobi, and on a riverboat in Hungary, and in a lot of hotel rooms.
What do you think is the most important element in creating a character?
You know, it's fascinating. People talk about, creating a character, and I knew the color of Jesse's eyes the moment I started writing about him. I knew that Malila had freckles and that she had a foul mouth the second I started writing about her. Those two sort of came, and they were, sprung full grown from the head of Zeus. Others I have sort of created on the fly because I needed that sort of character. And to some extent, I've created characters. One of my major characters in the first book is a computer program. And she develops rather nicely, and I'm in the process of watching how she's developing. But I had to invent her because I had to have my protagonist, who was essentially in this situation, and she had all this world building to do. She had to be talking to somebody. So and since she wakes up naked in her own room, it can't be a lot of different people.
So what's the best way to deal with edits or editor's notes that you don't agree with?
Sleep on them. I found editing gut-wrenching. This was my baby. You know that one. To learn to write in scientific and in medicine is terrible. Nobody ever does anything. Things happen.
Yeah.
It was found, it's, and I expected I needed to have it whooped out of me. So I hired a developmental editor who would do that. And it was a painful process because I really liked a certain phrase or something, and she said, "This doesn't make sense." And this is extraneous, and you need to cut it down, and you need to be more succinct, and and I'd get the results back, and then and then 2 days, leave alone, come back 2 days, and say, okay, I'm going to follow. I paid for this. I'm going to follow the instructions. And some things I used, and some things I didn't, and some things I fought for. And you kill your darlings. There's a whole chapter that I, murdered as being unnecessary, and it was truly unnecessary, but I really enjoyed it, so it's stuck away. I'm going to figure out some way to use it.
Do you think that now book 2 is going to be stronger because you went through that process?
Absolutely. I mean, it's I've been really internalized a lot of those lessons, and so book 2 compared, if I took the rough of book 1 and the rough of book 2, there's absolutely no comparison. And I don't think many people could even identify that the writer is the same.
Wow.
But the finished book 1 and rough of book 2, there's vast areas of continuity.
So what do you like most about being an indie or self-published author?
Well, it's, in a way, it's sort of like I haven't been anything else but independently published, so I certainly don't have anything to compare it with. I didn't try to get published other than independently. I want this story told. I think it's an important story, and I love it like a child because it's something I created, but I also think it's important. So I wasn't looking to compromise. I wasn't looking to go someplace and say, well, turn this character into a woman and, have them do this and have the, and it's sort of like, no, I don't think so. I wanted to make the best book I could, add as much value as I could to the book, and to present it in as nice a package as I can, because I wanted to hear the voice that I've been hearing in my head on paper.
Is there one aspect of your book that has an intentional hidden meaning in it, or something that represents you, that you think no one has come to you and gotten yet?
There are lots of layers. I've got inside jokes that I'm sure nobody but me ever will get. Nobody's mentioned the astronomical observations. I very specifically have dates and times. Most every chapter begins with a specific place on the globe and a specific date and time. And if somebody says, well, he looked over his left shoulder and he saw the moon. Well, if you go to the future and go to that spot and at that specific date and time, and you look over your left shoulder, you will see the moon. I did that for fun.
That being said, what's been the best comment or thing you heard about your book?
That they get the basic point that it's a story about youth and age. Of course, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, the book is Outland Exile, and that's a joke too that nobody else has gotten. My wife's name is Outland.
Okay.
I do have a blog, which is oldmenandinfidels.com, which is I'm right now in the middle of posting chapters of the book just for fun. That also is political commentary and excerpts of poetry, which I'm on a Yeats kick right now. Old Men and Infidels on Facebook. Twitter is W. Clark Boutwell.
Well, thank you, sir, so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It was lovely talking to you.
I appreciate you having me on. Let's do this again if you want, when we've got different things to say.
Are you someone who needs stimulus around them when they write? Do you have a music choice, or do you watch something like a film or a special video or something that gets you going into the writing, or is it just?
This is pretty much the black hole. You go in, you pull the hole in after you. I do listen to music. But that's mostly to keep what's out.
And your story takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. So how much of that world have you built outside of what the reader has read?
Excellent question, because a lot of it, you've got to have sort of gotten the idea and constructed it, and then it's just a reference to you. I mean, yeah, you have to connect enough of it so that people aren't completely at sea, but you really want to minimize that, one, because it's tedious, or it certainly can be tedious, you got to give your readers enough credit. They're smart people, or they wouldn't be reading you, and if you give them too much, they sort of say, well, of course the Blibescu does the Remendam, how else could it work?